You're watching BCTV. We're all about Branford. You're watching BCTV, Branford Government Television, a service of Branford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Branford.
Zoom meeting of the police headquarters, the police commissioners, September 13th at 5:35, and call to order and approval of the minutes for Monday, June 14th.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
Okay, report of the chief. Oh, traffic.
Wait. All in favor?
Pardon?
Aye.
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 Traffic committee?
And it's approved.
It's approved.
Okay. Report of the chief.
John Mullen speaking. If I may, I'd like to turn over the floor to the deputy chief. We have a new member of our department and a special guest with us tonight. And, I'd like to have the deputy speak to our social worker program and introduce Danielle, our new town of Branford social worker. So I'll turn it over to the deputy.
Thank you, Chief. This is Deputy John House. Deputy John House speaking. So we began working on our police social worker project. It's now been a year. We began working in September of 2020 on this project. Danielle Saurasi has started with us. She was hired and started on August 23rd. So since then, she's been very, very busy. She's been going out on calls for service in the field every day since she started. She's even been called in a few times from home. That's helped out our officers who needed assistance on crisis calls and mental health calls for service. She's been able to help people who walked in the front lobby of the PD looking for help, people looking for help with social service issues. These are things that the police are not well equipped to handle. She's very well equipped to handle. It's eliminated the need for us to call officers in off the road to help these people. So what's great about the program, we now have our own mental health professional. She's working alongside us. She's housed here in our building. She's available to us in the field within minutes. We have access to her experience, her education, her expertise 24/7. So in the few weeks she's been here, she's helped with gravely disabled cases. These are cases where there's small signs and cues given to loved ones that something may not be right with an individual. And they're very difficult cases for officers to make mental health assessments on. So she's been able to help in that realm. She's also cut down on unneeded involuntary commitments by police officers in the field based on her professional assessment.
You call BB,
so
please.
That's been very important. She's also identified when involuntary commitment was necessary, but unable to be articulated by the police. So that's another big use. And one other thing, she's been proactive in our approach to mental health. So we've never been able to go out and just contact, or we wouldn't go out and contact an individual in the field who needs assistance. But Danielle's been able to identify patterns of police contacts with individuals who need help. She's then taken an officer out with her in the field, and they've been able to make contacts and do assessment. She's doing follow-up, and it's only been 3 weeks, so we see a lot of value in the program already. We thank the community members who've supported the program, and we know it's going to be successful. So with that, I'll turn it over to Danielle so she can introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. So again, I'm Danielle Saurasi. I'm the new Branford Police social worker. I'm a licensed clinical social worker with about 15 years experience working with mental health and substance abuse. My schooling background consists of my undergraduate at Southern Connecticut University and my master's degree at Fordham University. Most of my career was at BH Care, which was the local mental health authority in the community, where I did crisis intervention work for about 12 years with them. In addition, I work part-time for South Central Mobile Crisis, which covers 16 towns after hours for crisis services. So that gave me the opportunity to work with 16 other police departments and other agencies in Connecticut, as well as I worked part-time at Yale emergency room where I worked in the trauma unit and kind of helped, facilitate and provide social work services there. Working closely over the last 12 years with Branford Counseling and BH Care, I've really have a knowledge of people in the community. So all the clients that kind of been at part of those organizations, I really got to know and recognize patterns and different things with them. And that's already kind of come into works at this new position. So as Deputy Chief mentioned, gravely disabled tends to be kind of that gray area for people to see. But in my field, you get to pick up different patterns with these clients. You get to talk to the family members and work in collaboration to identify that somebody's decompensating in nature. And one specific call that kind of happened over Labor Day weekend is one of the sergeants called in and the case just didn't feel right. It felt like there was more going on. We consulted over the phone and determined that it would be best that I respond out to the field in that moment. And it tended to work out really well. So by me responding out, he was actually hiding in his bathtub when we got there. So everyone's kind of intuition worked out and we were able to send him to the hospital to get further care. As Deputy Chief also mentioned, there was these other cases where now we're working closely with the different housing units in regards to these residents that are kind of going through some mental health and decompensating as well. I get to provide the follow-up care that the police officers don't really have the time to because they move on from one case to another. Whereas with my follow-up care, I'm able to call the hospital, give collateral of more information of what happened on the scene, maybe some background information that I got from the client or family members, as well as just kind of continuing with them to see, are you connected to services? How can I get you connected if not? Today was a good example too, just to kind of share that I got to meet with the mother of somebody that we dealt with last week, who didn't meet criteria for hospitalization, but wasn't connected to any services in the area. And today, myself and a case manager from Branford Counseling were able to kind of meet together with this mom, get her an intake for her son, as well as housing options. So it's really played out exactly what we were hoping for so far. And like Deputy Chief mentioned, it's been very busy.
Danielle, welcome.
Welcome, Danielle.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right. I have to say that, again, the efforts of Margaret Liberta, the deputy, and again, all the people that supported this program, the impact that we've seen in the past few weeks alone is substantial. And there's no doubt in my mind that this is going to be it is a successful program. But I do want to point out that we're very fortunate because, you can have the framework of a proposal like this and it looked good and it makes sense, but the person or the employees that you choose for this, we were very fortunate to get Danielle, her institutional knowledge, her familiarity with our department. She's a great fit for us and she's already off to a running start. So I want to thank her for coming on board. We're very fortunate to have her. All right. We haven't met in a little bit, so we'll try to go through this report as fast as I can, but we have a lot to catch up with and a lot to cover. So as far as the CompStat report, we have some good news and we have some bad news regarding our crime trends and some of our incidents throughout town. I'll start with some of the bad. Our theft from automobiles, the larceny from vehicles, they are up 49% year to date. So again, it's a broken record. We say, lock your car, lock your car, lock your car. Well, we've spoken about lock your car because your door opener might be in the vehicle. They might steal your vehicle. This continues to be a problem. And if we need the public's help, and we all have to be, cognizant of what's going on out there. So the larceny from vehicles are up. They're up substantially. The good news is our stolen vehicles are trending downward. Year to date, 42%. So, that sounds great. We're down 42%, but that's still 31 vehicles stolen to date since January in the town of Branford. So that's still concerning. And when we look at it, we don't want to push out a false sense of security that our overall, our violent crime is way down. Our Part 1 crime numbers are down. That's all very good news. But what we're seeing, and we had one back on the 9th, I believe, in Linden Shores, car was unlocked, house was unlocked. A group of offenders decided to go on a crime spree throughout the shoreline here. And they entered the occupied home, stole the homeowner's pocketbook, stole the keys, they stole cars. And in Madison, there was a recovered stolen vehicle, and the victim's belongings, some of the victim's belongings were there. The officer went to the house here in Branford. The victims didn't even know. It was early in the morning. So now we're seeing, again, we've talked about this before. Yes, breaking into cars, stealing money and items out of unlocked cars has been said to be property crime. They were property crime. However, I don't think that anybody would want people trespassing on their property. Now we've seen an increase in these offenders starting to enter occupied dwelling. Now, I'll make this very clear for those who don't understand, but I think everyone's pretty rational. There is a big difference between property crimes and entering occupied dwelling. So what I also can say is when we see the conclusion of this case, which we will, this is going to be more than likely a juvenile offender who has had previous police contact and or been arrested numerous times. And I would bet that those violations include stolen cars, engaging police officers in pursuit, and a host of other larceny charges. We've had some slight improvement. We now have access to a point of contact with juvenile probation where we can call when we do make juvenile arrests. And we've made one this month for a stolen car to see the juveniles' arrest status and pending cases so we can present them to a judge to hopefully get an order to detain. So my plea to the public is please make it part of your routine. Lock your cars, lock your house. Again, our numbers are very good in other areas, but it's unfortunate, but there's a subset and an emerging criminal trend of these juveniles. They won't stop for the police. They engage in pursuit. It's a big issue. So please lock your cars. Also, we're starting to see the trend continue of our drug overdoses. They continue to rise. We're up 19% this year across the state. Since COVID, they are way up. This is a problem that we continue to battle as a community and throughout the state and quite frankly, the nation, kind of taking a back seat with COVID and some of the other issues. But again, our fentanyl and the amount of overdoses we're seeing is very concerning. To tie into what the deputy and Danielle said, our mental health calls are up 18%. Again, I don't think we need to talk about the value of this program and what it's going to mean for us. Just a public service announcement. As you know, school started back. We are in the school zones. We are conducting enforcement. We do have the speed trailers out there. So please be mindful. Also, the standing school buses and allowing enough distance to not pass a standing school bus. The fine alone is substantial. And no one is in such a hurry. You cannot wait for a school bus. Also, the pedestrian traffic is increasing in those areas around this time of year. So please be mindful and slow down when you go to the school zone. Also, Hurricane Henri, thankfully, we didn't take a direct hit, paid out better than expected. I'd like to, thank the fire chief. As our emergency management director, we were in constant contact. We had planning with the selectman's office and the first selectman and everybody else. And, he put a lot of effort, and, we'll take it every time if we can get it to miss us. But I think Chief Mahoney deserves some recognition. He did a great job. We appreciate all his effort. As far as the summer season, we did fairly well. I just want to highlight on the marine unit and the boat. Got a lot of complaints from the Pine Orchard and Stony Creek area about jet skis and noise. And then we have the routine wake violations in other areas. I spoke with a lot of the residents. I've received a lot of letters, and in discussion with those that I could get a hold of and others, we are trying to get the boat out as much as we can. If you recall, last year, we almost doubled the time from the previous year. So we're consistently increasing the patrol time of the Marine unit. However, we face some challenges, and those challenges are we have an aging workforce. Some of our officers that have the intimate knowledge and 30 years, 20 years of experience on the water out there are retiring, or they're unavailable for other reasons. And it's going to take quite some time to get other officers up to speed. It is not as simple as just putting an officer on a boat. It's not that simple. We have a subset of officers who may be qualified, who are working towards getting qualified to do that. And speaking with the deputy, we will not put people out on that boat unless we feel they're qualified. Sometimes you're operating in tough conditions. We have probably one of the hardest areas to navigate along the coastline. We want to keep our presence out there. We want to be visible, but we are fighting that. We were out there last weekend, and we continue to get the boat out as much as we can. So we are doing the best we can, but there are going to be lapses in the weekends that we can't always get it out there. They've assisted with a few rescues, and just quite frankly, being visible. So we are working on that. I wanted to put that out there to everybody. Also, as far as we received the opportunity for a $35,000 grant through OPM, the Office of Policy and Management. This is a grant that is related to the COVID relief fund and some of that money. When the juvenile and the stolen cars and all those issues that you're seeing on the news, select towns met, and the police chiefs voiced their concerns with some of the issues. So there was, I believe, $5 million that was set aside for PDs that were identified with issues with the stolen cars and other issues. So with that grant, what that's going to allow us to do from now until December, the end of December, we are going to be focused on crime deterrent. That'll give us some increased patrols, specifically assigned plainclothes and in uniform in targeted areas. Secondly, domestic violence. We saw an increase, and we can continue to see issues with mental health and domestic violence throughout COVID and the aftermath and everything we're still dealing with. So we will have officers that are specifically targeting domestic violence offenders, current cases and past cases, and track those people down. We had one just a couple of days ago that we arrested in an early morning operation in New Haven, and we will continue to do that. Third, we will look at some of our overdoses, and we're going to try to see if we can put specific dealers with those overdoses and look for patterns, and we'll be focusing on that. And lastly, there is some opportunities for continued public outreach. So you will see some more events, community events mixed in there with that. So we're very, very lucky to get that opportunity. Staffing, as we went through the summer months, again, we had vacations, COVID. We did have 2 officers who came down with COVID. One was a long-term. We had a few incidents of quarantine, so that kind of depleted us at certain times when we factor that in with training and vacations. But we need to continue on the training. We need to keep our training cycle. We need not to interrupt that. So again, we had some increased overtime throughout the summer months, but that's normal, and we'll continue to track it. Lastly, we're still moving ahead with the early stages of the planning and the design, as well as identifying the needs of the building. As you know, this has been ongoing with the moisture issue in the basement, as the cell block issues. Myself, the deputy, the first selectman, and others met recently with a police architect. We do have a proposal for a building needs assessment that they will look at the entire building and give us a 5-year, 10-year, 15-year needs assessment. So that is ongoing. That project has not been forgotten. It's just unfortunately other issues. Forfeiture report and injury report. I have nothing to report there. And lastly, I have a fair amount of correspondence that we received in the past few months. One of them was from a Branford resident. Her daughter was in a mental health crisis. They were reluctant. They called. They were reluctant to get help. Dispatch was able to speak with them, and officers were dispatched. Officers Casella and Campanelli responded. And again, this was a situation where they were hesitant to have police involvement. And I received an email from the mother who said that they were the most nicest, well-trained officers she's ever met. She was impressed by their knowledge on mental health and the professionalism. He was so appreciative, and she's so glad that the officers ultimately did respond, and we provided them with the necessary services. So a good job, Officer Casella and Campanelli. Detective Pat Moynihan and retired Sergeant Rich DeLynn, they were on Marine Patrol, and they helped with the annual swim, the mermaid swim, and received a letter thanking them for their assistance while that swim took place. And as all of you know, downtown's been tough to navigate lately with all the construction. And I have a letter from a elderly resident in the area of Hillside for Officer Lou Sauberge on how nice he was and helped this person get into their apartment and navigate through the construction area, and just wanted to say thank you for taking the time and helping them out. And another letter from an elderly resident whose car broke down. Officer Aaron Weber responded and helped her through what was a difficult situation for her, but Officer Weber helped her make arrangements, and he just wanted to say how caring and compassionate she was, and it really, really was appreciated. Last one, this dates back to June. Didn't make the previous meeting. Forgive me if I did present this one. I normally don't read these verbatim, just in the sake of time. But I feel this one should be. It's from a Branford resident. A few years ago this month, I was assaulted while running nearly steps from my house. As a lifelong resident, I always felt safe in this community. After the incident, I was shaken, fearful to even leave my house, let alone running, which is my passion. If not for the kindness and professionalism of the responding officers and detectives, I'm not sure I would be where I am today, feeling safer in my hometown, experiencing the joy of running again. I really cannot thank you enough for how you handled my case. Your sensitivity and thoughtfulness throughout the entire interview process follow-up, and eventual resolution of my case made a painful situation much more manageable. I will forever be grateful for the tireless work of the officers and the detective put into solving my case. That was a case that our officers and detectives put a lot of work in, and we did get a successful prosecution in that case. But again, this speaks to the efforts and the compassion of the officers and the professionalism. Great letter. And it's just another sign of the good work they do day to day. With that's all I have, unless anyone has any questions.
Yeah, I have one question, Chief. Your discussions about the juveniles that continue to be frequent flyers and just it's like a revolving door thing. Is there anything that citizens can do in terms of contacting our representatives to change that? Is it a question of the courts being too lenient? Is it at all a function of the Police Accountability Act? Are there any things that the citizenry can do to make it better?
Well, when we speak, juveniles, again, rehabilitation is what we want. And as police officers, that's what you want. You want them to get the help that they need and stop quite frankly, the criminal conduct. But I think what we're seeing is when a juvenile's been arrested 7 times for serious cases, at what point do we change our path of the idea of rehabilitation through, just don't do it again? I know the Chiefs Association, they have made some progress with some of our politicians and the lawmakers, and we are in talks. We're working together. It's a complex issue, but what I would say to the citizens is, yes, let your state rep and your senators and those that you can talk to express your frustration or your concern. I think if you poll the local news outlets, there's a story probably, I would say every week, where we've had cases across the state where there's been actual shots fired. You could probably play back some of the old commission meetings where I spoke of those cases. So we're seeing purse snatchings. And listen, it has nothing to do with the police accountability bill, but it does have to do with, I think, some well-intended programs and some well-intended ideologies that are unfortunately just not panning out. And we have the data to show that.
What happened?
I think he's done. We move on to traffic.
I'm all set unless you got more.
No.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
This is Patty Austin for the Traffic Committee report. The first item was requesting a dead-end sign on McKinnell Court. The Traffic Committee is recommending no action at this time. And to the Chief's point, the number of auto break-ins and theft, if they lock their doors and didn't leave the keys in the car, that might be more of a deterrent than even the dead-end sign. The second item is a request for speed limit signs on Taylor Place, Westwood, and section of Clark. The resident wrote in asking for a speed limit sign, but what she was really talking about were a number of large trucks and vehicles parked on both sides of the road, narrowing it down to a one-lane road and decreasing the visibility. Lieutenant Ramey went out and spoke to the contractors who were working on a home out there, and they were very agreeable to moving their vehicles so that the road was not blocked anymore. So there's no action on the request for the speed limit signs, but we did take care of the unit or the homeowner's request. The third item, request for scallop section beneath the double yellow line on Shore Drive between Orchard House at 421 Shore Drive to East Haven Bridge to alert drivers and speeders when they cross the double line that they are driving dangerously illegal. The committee is recommending no action at this time. The fourth one, request to have hedges cut back on the corner of Isabel Lane and South Monterey Street, which creates a severe line of sight issue. Lieutenant Ramey has made a few attempts to contact the homeowner. I guess they've been playing phone tag. We did have the town engineer out to look at it. He's going to continue to try to make contact with them, and if not successful, then trying to get a hold of someone in the State Department. So the recommendation is those hedges have to be cut back. They don't have to be cut down so much as they have to be cut back this way, so that you don't have the blocking of the road from cyclists and pedestrians and cars. Next item, request for movable radar signs on the straightaway section of 146 after the Guilford town line, request an increased enforcement. There were analytics done which showed that there is the speed and there is the traffic out there, but it doesn't meet the target that is set for putting out speed trailers or radar signs. We will, the committee's recommending that we do put a speed trailer out there when possible and increased officer presence. Next item is a request for speed trailer and calming devices for Kirkham Street. Kirkham Street does have the speed and the volume, but it was the recommendation of the committee to defer the request for striping, to defer the request until a decision is made on the striping part of a development that's going on. Radar can be put in there along with increased officer presence. And the last item, which was really not on the agenda as the letter came in too late, but it is the group of residents in the restaurant area on 146. We are in receipt of another letter where they are requesting certain things like traffic lights, stop signs. They have reached out to First Selectman Cosgrove, Senator Cohen, State Representative Comey, State Representative Sean Scanlon, as well as myself and the police chief and Phil Ramey, Lieutenant Ramey. We had quite a discussion on this, but the end of it is, we need all the help we can get. Anybody that's willing to help get through to the state and get this done. We'll just keep the officer presence in that area. We have put in speed signs. We did increase the street light voltage or wattage, I guess. So we'll just keep on with that until we can get some response from the state. Either Chief Muller or Lieutenant Ramey will reach out to the DOT and see if we can get some answers or some kind of information from them on the start, I guess, start of the project, not so much the finish, just the start. And that's all I have for traffic.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve traffic?
Before we go there, I just would like to make one comment about the situation down on that corner. This is Rick Goodwin speaking. I think that it behooves the citizenry that are listening to this, if they want something done, we're having a lot of trouble getting through our state representatives and getting action on this. These are elected officials. These people need to be responsive to the danger that is down there. And it is my sense that our elected officials are not responding quickly enough to this situation. So I'm asking the citizenry to write your elected officials and express your concern. And from our point of view as a traffic commission, as the local traffic, we really need to put pressure on them as well. Right now it's drawing to a close. The summer's drawing to a close. It's going to get less crowded down there, but these are real serious issues. There's a lot of people there, and so far we've been pretty lucky down there. But I'm pretty scared of that situation, and I think our local elected officials need to step up to the plate now and do what we need with the state to help this get remediated. So that's what I'd like to see the local citizens do.
Is that it, Rick?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anybody else have any more comments on anything? Okay. I don't have any comments either. So I guess we'll call. Do I have a motion to end the meeting?
We need a motion to approve the traffic committee report.
Right.
Traffic committee.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor? All in favor? Aye.
And our next meeting is October 11th, if that's the second Monday of the month. So
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to end this meeting.
second.
I'll second.
Okay. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good night,
Aye.
everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Night, everyone. Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.